Boa tarde. Hoje é dia 8 de abril. Sim, é primavera aqui essa questão de América do Norte abrindo para primavera. O que estou falando esse momento, abrindo com os desenhos sobre os 4 livros do Confucius e 5 clássicos dos grandes escritos, trabalho do Confucius. Razão de qual estou abrindo esse segmento de cruzando a cultura chinesa com a minha exposição da língua portuguesa, a língua latino-romano, porque com os chineses hoje nós estamos com dificuldade de conectar quais são os sons ou da música da época anterior, como Confúcio, bom, muito mais que da nossa época romana, latino, de 2000 anos e mais. China já está com a cultura de 3.500, considerando só a parte escrito e não da parte anterior da mitologia chinesa, que vai até 5.000 anos. Mas nesse segmento eu quero falar mais sobre isso. Talvez os chineses podem pegar essa apresentação que eu observei, que eu estudei, pesquisei bastante, né? Porque eu, primeiro, vou falando sou uma pessoa cross-cultural. É gozado, eu não sei como falar cross-cultural em português e em espanhol, porque não existe cruzando as culturas. Mas, no meu caso, mesmo falando português, eu sempre pensei assim, quem eu sou, a língua principal, a língua original é a língua chinês, falando na língua materna da minha mãe, no qual é cantonês. E eu vou falando mais em cantonês. Sim, eu tenho uma capacidade de falando em mandarim, mas porque durante a minha mocidade, nascido em Xangai em 48, eu saí por minha conta em 52, onde a mamãe com os meu irmão e 2 irmãs já estavam em Macau. No meu caso, que cruzando esse período, os primeiros 10 anos, quando eu comecei a aprender a falar, talvez com 5 anos a menos, cantonês é a língua materna da parte da minha mãe. Então, com todas essas memórias, lembranças e aprendizagem com os colégios, com os padres salesianos de Macau, e foi batizado por um missionário, missão do Matteo Ricci da Itália. E, portanto, eu quero acrescentar sobre essa experiência entre a minha aprendizagem da língua romana, latina e também grego. Até minha irmã me gozava. Onde você aprendeu grego? Ninguém fala grego. Você falou aprendeu grego em Macau ainda? Bom, gozação ou não? Sim. O que eu quero acrescentar aqui, quando eu estava em Macau, com os ensinos chinês, tem bastante inglês, e por os padres salesianos, vem vindo da origem da Itália. Particularmente o melhor cantor, meu melhor som era do padre Peroni. E por total coincidência, uma das meus melhores amigos, a minha família brasileira, da família do Dr. Orlando Murari, e uma outra prima, casado com o sobrenome Peroni. E com tudo isso, eu quero já vai falando sobre esse segmento. Talvez os meus amigos chineses e americanos pode notar, pode levar essa experiência de multiculturalização minha, da cruz das culturas, onde aprendi grego em Macau, cantando as missas cantantes. Então, eu notei que desde o tempo da transição da linguagem falada na Judeia ou Palestina, em tal maneira, não acredito que ele estava falando fluentemente a língua hebreu. Provavelmente ambos, a cidadania daquela região já falava aramaica, por parte, vindo do filme do Mel Gibson e outros comentários. Mas o que eu achei interessante, a entonação da língua, da canto gregoriana, grego, ampliou a língua latina romana, e no futuro chamando as línguas vulgar, né? Do espanhol, português, francês, romaniano e italiano, tá? E tem outros subdivisões da Córcega, das outras ilhas, ou até gallego, a língua original da Ibéria. A língua portuguesa fez a parte do gallego, da minha língua espanhola, daquelas regiões com as divisões entre os estados dos reinos ibero-portuguesa, tudo isso. Mas o que eu achei interessante, que com mais de 10 anos a minha ligação com a missão salesiana de Turino, de João Bosco, Giovanni Bosco e tudo mais. A minha irmã fazia gozação onde você aprendeu grego em Macau, uma colônia portuguesa que 99,9% pessoas falam só cantonês. Pouquíssima gente falando português, só xingando. Então, aqui vem essa coisa interessante. A musicalidade. Eu vou usar um outro tom que é cantado quase todo dia. Dando ergo sacramentum, renenem cernui, et anticum documentum. E agora vem da missa que abre sempre. Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison. Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo, ide missa est, Christe eleison. Nós podemos falar em inglês, em português, espanhol, em todas as letras. Podemos falar até chinês, com essa barra da extensão do bocadito som. Já podemos trocando de português para espanhol, italiano, e vai indo para chinês, inglês. We can speak in English, or German, or Deutsch, or Italian. Because the Gregorian chant allows us to breathe, to extend, and to think, e pensando como se fala na outra frase, terminamos com essa tonalidade de sobe e baixo. Bom, é uma descoberta que eu achei por minha conta. Sempre a gente acha alguma coisa nova, não é totalmente minha, é uma coisa que a gente observou, viu, e é uma percepção do período, como que essa tonalidade cantando latim em grego, que estendeu mais de 2.000 anos. E durante o tempo a tonalidade pode ser baixo, muito super religioso. Talvez os cristianos estavam escondendo na baixo dos catacombes na Itália. Em tudo isso, o que eu quero fazer, para só responder um dos chineses que me pediu para falar sobre sonora, sound and music, a música e o som. Então, eu vou aproveitar nesse segmento, tem o primeiro a abertura em inglês, e agora estou fazendo em português, e eu vou tentar fazer mais um segmento em chinês. Porque em todas essas línguas estou falando, talvez eu tenha uma muito melhor de correspondência das observações deles por lado anglo-americano, por lado do português latino e agora ainda parte com os chineses. Tá? Então, muito obrigado. Quem quiser faz parte, me ajuda. Pode me ver em YouTube, estou começando agora, nessa época de digital, e vai falando mais, e muitas falas hoje já dá para de recortação de uma maneira com YouTube, com CC, Caption, isso que pode convertendo para a escritura e para outro tipo de ensino. E eu vou fazer agora essa parte do chinês, e eu não quero fazer essa parte de fala com muito comprido. Quero fazer dentro de 45 minutos. Então, muito obrigado, meus amigos brasileiros, portugueses, amigos latinos. Quem sabe no outro segmento vou falar em espanhol. Bom dia para vocês. 早晨，今日係2024年4月8日。喺今年年頭開始中國新年咧，我就決定咗我會盡可能嚟到用我嘅過去嗰50年嘅跨文化嗰個圈子啊，呢個文化圈子我會一直會嚟多啲 emphasize。點解呢？因為我嘅過去嘅嗰50年前開始我嘅教育，我係叫做 cross-cultural psychology， 你可以話跨文化嘅心理學。OK， 點解我會今日用廣東話講，甚至我希望你哋我啲朋友呢，多啲饒恕我。點講咧？要 forgiving 點解咧？因為好多時係我呢個心理學嗰個圓方心理學到呢個跨文化心理學咧，我從來未用過喺一個中國文化嘅圈子裏邊。點解我用廣東話而唔用國語呢？第一，我個廣東話係我母語，我生喺上海1948年，爸爸喺浙江餘姚。係王陽明嘅同鄉，我會講多啲王陽明嘅故事，點樣嚟影響到我呢個圓方心理學你可以話我西遊記之後，而家我東回啦。其實呢個東回咧，亦都唔需要喺個人喺東方。今時今日嗰個我哋嘅 digital era， 我哋呢個時代嘅 technology 我哋可以用翻。喺我呢個自然嘅環境裏邊，我而家係一個西遊東回，將呢個中西嗰兩個文化嘅有可能結合嘅嘢，我會結合出嚟。尤其今日我講嘅呢個少少呢個片段咧，係講到關於有一位朋友，好多朋友都講過，孔夫子個四書五經咧。其實咧就缺少咗第一份，應該係四書六經。呢個六經咧就係音樂，係咪啊？咁我諗咗好耐，我哋今時今日講嘅話，我聽咗好多客家話，我又可以聽到國語，聽到潮州話，聽到任何嘅上海話，即係客家話，聽到我哋廣東音。尤其我啲喺美國長大呢幾十年咧，甚至於聽到好多個台山話。咁媽媽屋企係廣西長大，媽媽係番禺嘅，但係廣西長大，佢哋講嘅官話係等於我哋講舊時嘅國語，唔係今時今日嘅普通話咁標準嘅。咁喺呢個語言裏邊，我14歲離開咗澳門讀英文，喺巴西講葡文、講西班牙話，甚至今時今日我係80%冇問題係同講意大利話。我爸爸係留法嘅，所以我對法文嘅書體字或者用 Google Translate 都覺得好方便同埋好自由。咁今時今日我今日嗰個題材就係話喺咁多個語言方面，喺咁多個音樂方面咧，係咪？我哋會唔會有一日中國人可以 trace 到我哋嘅發音語言喺邊個語系？ 北方、南方，係咪？你講宋朝、明朝，你講到係北方嘅以後嘅清朝，即係南北兩邊嘅語言嗰個溝通咧，係一個我希望有一個貢獻，唔係貢獻到個成績，但係呢個 passage 喺呢一個路過之間咧，我只可以用我嘅經驗我喺呢個喺澳門長大。識聽上海話，識講國語，識講廣東話，去到南美洲係咪啊？喺澳門就已經 acquire 咗希臘話同埋呢個拉丁語言嘅 exposure 一部分。到我小學初中一讀喺次學校，然後喺粵華，轉翻去巴西。喺巴西我亦夠係跟翻住呢個慈幼會 Salesianos Don Bosco from Torino 嘅。咁咧。我希望喺呢個 passage 喺呢一段階程呢個講音同埋音樂同埋響音同埋唱歌係咪啊？一個好大嘅印象就係我喺由8、9歲之後，我喺澳門，我哋要參加呢個 service 嗰個彌撒，咁我哋係嗰啲 altar boy 係咪啊？唔使 altar boy 都諗唔到點樣講係廣東話。喺呢段時間咧。我成日俾我啲屋企人笑，喂！你成日講你學咗 Latin and Greek， 拉丁文同希臘文喺澳門係咁咩？都冇人講希臘話嘅。OK， 因為嗰個時期我哋喺澳門禮拜日好多我哋嘅學生洗咗禮同學咗拉丁語言係 to serve mass 嘅彌撒啊，我哋神父會叫我哋出去跟佢哋去其他嘅教堂。甚至嗰個 cloister 嘅教堂嘅全部都係修女，冇男人嘅。咁喺嗰個彌撒嗰個時期咧，唯一個答翻嗰個神父嘅語言係咪？好似講 Dominus Vobiscum， 咁我哋會講 Et cum spiritu tuo 啊。喺嗰個時期開始，尤其你每日都有 Latin Mass， 係有拉丁語言嘅彌撒，同埋喺呢個假期啊，或者係 High Mass 嘅時間，因為聖誕節啊、復活節啊，其中嗰段時間咧，我哋喺澳門慈幼嗰個教堂嗰個唱嘅彌撒係好深刻嘅印象。OK， 咁今時今日我就話喺呢個Middle East。講到 Judea， 講到巴勒斯坦 Palestine， 呢一段時期講耶穌嗰段時期，佢哋嗰時係講咩話咧？唔可能係 Hebrew， 因為 Hebrew 係比較複雜嘅。咁睇咗電影之後，睇完 Mel Gibson 嘅電話，講到emphasize 耶穌嗰段時期，我諗佢哋嗰時講嘅話咧係 Aramaic。點樣可能係呢個 Aramaic？轉咗嗰個系統入到去呢一個拉丁同埋希臘語言嗰個發言咧，當然我個名叫 Paul， 我個 patron saint 啊，即係我個名係澳門大三巴嗰個叫做聖保祿，嗰個係我個名。我搬咗去巴西住嘅城市叫做聖保祿，我哋叫聖保羅係大三巴，就聖保羅嗰個猶太名原叫做 Saul， 個 catalyst。Saul Paul from Tarsus 係將呢一段時期將呢個 Judea Palestine 講嘅 Aramaic 開始受到其他一個教徒喺嗰個土耳其，今時今日土耳其佢係出生於 Tarsus， 係今日土耳其嘅一部分，但嗰段時期應該係希臘嘅嗰個影響好大。咁呢個語言從呢個Palestine上到去呢一個希臘個 Byzantine， 然後入到去呢個羅馬希臘文嗰個拉丁語言嗰個文化系統係嘛？你啱聽我講啦，講到希臘，講到 Byzantine， 講到拜新田，又講到羅馬。我最深刻嘅記象，個印象好深㗎，就好笑添。點解咧？因為我喺澳門長大嘅時候，到14歲啦。我對學校嘅神父好印象嘅就係 Father Peroni， 叫做貝神父。第二個咧就係陸神父嘅原名叫做 Luis Ruiz， 路易斯係佢嘅名 Ruiz 係佢嘅姓，佢係西班牙嘅。我甚至喺佢過世前10年，我翻嚟澳門，我同佢幫佢做彌撒喺嗰啲病院裏邊。嗰時仲有 Father Minelli 咧，佢就係耶穌會喺呢個 Mattel-Ricci 嗰個第一個 mission 喺澳門，係都兩個同我洗禮嘅。離開咗澳門30年，翻到嚟澳門同 Father Ruiz 我哋講英文、葡萄牙文、西班牙文，我哋嘅 exchange 廣東話好多嘢好奇妙嘅。咁但係我點解將呢一個階段講到呢一個天主教、羅馬文化、希臘唱嘅文化，可以將呢一個我哋天主教嗰個 Gregorian chant 喺嗰個 Gregorian Pope 係嗰段時期，佢哋嗰個音可以唱出嚟，喺任何歌、任何字，佢都可以將佢變入咗佢個音咧，俾你個時間，俾你個空間，可以再諗再想。我而家先開始俾幾個 example 俾你哋啦，好簡單啦。Dominus vobiscum et cum spiritu tuo，開始用呢個 Gregorian chant。咁咧早期嘅彌撒開始話 Kyrie eleison Christe eleison Kyrie eleison Christe eleison。咁仲有一支歌叫做 Pater 就 Our Father in Latin。Pater omnipotente Factore Caeli et terrae, visi spirium Dominum, visi spirit Dominum. In the beginning of the century, we are learning from Chinese to English, and from English to Latin, and Latin we learn how to sing in Greek. And now I can changing this from English to Portuguese and to Spanish. And I'm going back to falando Portuguese. And I can switching this to English, Portuguese, Spanish, and anytime, any moment. And I can also sing in Shanghai. And we can try to do this. And by the sound, height, and the low tune, give you time to reflecting on the words. 你可以加字人在加名，在每一個呢個歌曲裏邊，你可以用你廣東話再講西文，啦啦啦啦啦啦啦啦啦啦啦。I hope 即係我希望呢一個 observation 希臘嘅嗰個音樂嗰個聲音係發展咗成個拉丁語言，甚至將羅馬帝國發展到去嗰5個嘅小國語言英文叫做 vulgar language。vulgar 唔係話邋遢 ，lingua vulgar 係佢 derivative 係一個可以分展咗由拉丁 Roman 變咗意大利話、西班牙話、法文、葡文，甚至於羅馬尼亞嘅話。咁呢一個可能就係一個 example， 一個 guideline， 等我哋中國人再反覆反想，有冇我哋舊時嘅音樂，追究個音樂係唱咩字眼呢？係唔係客家有收穫，廣東話有收穫？我亦都聽過廣東話係可能係一個舊時嗰個嘅中國嘅語言。OK， 再講潮州，甚至於客家，你講到客家，講到閩南話，呢個就係我今日一個答案。喺 YouTube 嗰度已經有一個朋友問咗呢個問題，希望我可以有少少 feedback。OK， 我喺 Facebook 嗰個 platform 裏邊，我有個 conscientization 良心學，係跟住呢個巴西教育家 Paulo Freire。我有另外一個 platform 叫做 I the Monkey 馬騮精，廣東話呢個馬騮精呢個字好好用嘅。我希望我會將呢啲 tapes 係擺上喺呢個 platform， 加埋 YouTube。 咁 in the meantime 我多謝你哋先，可以接受我嗰啲鹹鹹濕濕廣東話，即係希望下一步以後我會進步，多謝。Good afternoon. Today is April 8th, 2024. As I have started the series of this sort of sharing and talking, better emphasize in Portuguese as in fala, Italian parla, or habla in Spanish, and I will show more about this collective linguistic side of the issue. However, today, what I really want to, for the first time, I will try to do this taping in the 3 separate languages, in English, then in Portuguese, and in Cantonese. And I will try my best to keep this segment of it all in less than 45 minutes. You will see I will post the known literature by Confucius, which is talked about the 4 books and 5 classics. Somehow in all these years, I've heard comments about one of the classics that Confucius may have missed is music. And so, over my time growing up, locked into the family and how family scripts each other. When in our cross-cultural pattern of life, born in Shanghai 1948, from a Cantonese mother and my father from Yuyao, which is the same town by coincidence, of Wang Yangming, which Wang Yangming inspired me in this segments after 50 years coming back to psychology, educational psychology, and cross-cultural psychology. And a huge part of the cross-cultural segment of my life is involving languages. So I will try to make this, allow me the expression called bits and pieces of cultures. I spoke Cantonese all the way until I was 14, or just finishing primary school, going in the middle school. In American format will be just the first year of the middle school, or in Brazil, I actually started with the ginásio, which is the primário ginásio, gymnasium, relating a lot of the Greek of the actions. And then in high school is either classical or científico, which means science and classics. Even this terminology, a great deal of them shapes the way I see how I have grown in this cross-cultural world, and they often use the term the cultural sphere. This is kind of funny because in every sphere, when I'm emerging or merging into another culture, I basically have not really neglected or denied or forgetting the origins, my origins anyway. And with this subdivided multiculturalism in China, I basically can understand greatly about 5 dialects, because my exposure to Shanghai dialect. My 2 sisters, 5 years older, both spoke fluently. And then our Mandarin, or the Putonghua, was assembly from our sounds during our days in Brazil when I was 14, from 1962 to 67. And so now we speak Putonghua, or the Mandarin, good grasp of Shanghai, but not used long enough, but I could understand probably 80%. And also the other subdialect coming out from my mother's side in Guangxi, when they spoke of Guanhua, Cantonese called Gunhua, actually means their area of the Mandarin official language. And my maternal grandfather was a magistrate working for the court of Manchu or Qing. So the sound and tones we have the accents. And to my own, I'm no longer feeling shy or not being able to comment one dialect or one language in 100%. But if I can do 80, 60, 90%, I think as a linguist, as a language speaker, I'm pretty satisfied with what I have. And as you will see in this segment, by speaking, in me trying to share with the world, with all the feedbacks, with the modern day digital AI, the speedy, I call it quantum algorithm, everything will have input. One of these days, by me speaking English, that can come into adaptation of the movement, or movimento vocal, that would change me into actually movement to the local language, from Hungarian to Greeks to Russian to Uzbek. To make it this observation, when Confucius, known for his 4 books and 5 classics, I've heard time and again over this time and period, the scholars and Chinese friends discussing that there is an omission of the one other classic, which is called music. Okay, historians have often emphasized that Confucius himself, as a tall man, maybe 1.70 m or 6 foot, whatever, he frequently exercised with sword or danced with a sword, with sound and music. Of course, we know it's very difficult to have history recording sound and what dialect we speak. You know, I speak Cantonese. Some people like to say Cantonese come very close to the old imperial sound in the Han Dynasty, before Qing and before Ming. And other people would like to say Hakka, where I found the language of Hakka language. Hakka literally meaning the visitors. Hak is visitor. Ga or Jia is family. So the Chinese dialogues, when you're learning from a southern dialect, from Cantonese, at times we almost have the Germanic sound of the German villa sound. And why, picking up from my Shanghai awareness, the sound is very nasal. But maybe that's why we went to Brazil, we talk about San Francisco or Sao Paulo or São. For many, even Hispanic folks, finding it difficult to pronounce the sound São Paulo, San Francisco, San Tomas. But anyway, my presentation today, I think this is just one of the observations that will be very valid for scholars and researchers to study what sound and music had carried the longest time. And I'm going back to the Christian era, okay, this is we're 2024. And the period of time when the Christians coming from the region of the Middle East or the Arabic, Hebrew, with that tonality, and by borrowing the segment of the Roman Catholic upbringing, I have found it very interesting how the language spoken at that time of the Christ in Palestine or in Judea most likely was speaking Aramaic. And then from Aramaic, the conversion into the Greco-Roman, which is quite unique because they're two very distinct, different sounds. And so I am just hypothesizing in using my Roman Catholic upbringing and my patron saint, or Paul, or San Paulo, or Saul by the Old Hebrew or the Judaic origin. What I found interesting is because when I'm going around sharing my friends, oh yes, I have started my language learning in Macau when I lived from 5 to 14, the 10-year period. Also, the first time exposure to the English language, which is post-war, and all the schools are making English as a requirement. Also, in the transitioning time of the people, the migrant, which I will speak more about the Chinese diaspora, which is interesting. Unlike the Jewish diaspora, which they can take from Moses' exile in the Old Testament to to the last of the Germanic era or the Second World War when they departing from Europe. But the Chinese diaspora having a very complex time and period, you can set for any period, triggering from the time of the Opium War with 1800s, but the opium used by the Chinese was 1700s, 1800s, and until the 1840 and into 1948, it's 150 years of the Chinese emerging from what is Chinese ethnicity, and then the Han character of the Chinese were under the subjugation and ruling by a foreign tribe or by a Nordic tribe, the Manchu. And so from that time of the decline of the Manchu era, impacted by the Opium War, where China loses basically all the East Coast cities forced by the British and by the foreign 8 nations, and they had to be subjugating to the taxation, all the rules and laws made by the British. And I myself born in a French concession in Shanghai, and for many years I never gone back to Shanghai. Maybe that's the opium diaspora or the opium impact my psyche. I look at Japan. I mean, Shanghai was a former colony. In fact, I flew over London more than 10 times in my last 35 years travel. I have never landed in England. At least it's not about hatred, about cultural discrimination, but the Opium War had impacted me a great deal by not wanting having any association with Shanghai or to stop in England. But by all means, I have many good English friends, Chinese friends from Shanghai, and I grew up among the Jewish people in Brazil for quite a few years. That shapes and forms my cross-cultural living experience. But the subject matter, going back again and again to this time and period, how the Greek sound, not words. Because when I told my friends, I learned Greek and Latin as a start in a foreign language when I was as a kid, 8, 9, 10, all the way to 14. Then to Brazil, acquired Portuguese. Still in Brazil, I was living in the same ambience of the Roman Catholic order called the Salesianos in Portuguese, or Salesians of Giovanni Bosco. The influence was immense, was huge. In speaking of the language terms, even how I grew up in the environment using hands as a nonverbal. Well, it can basically started tracing back to when I was 8, 9 years old in the school in Macau with the father, with the priest. Still very vividly, Father Peroni, because his voice, his sound in the singing of the Gregorian chants on any good given Sunday, where I have acquired my Latin, I serve Mass, and you have to do well in the Latin pronunciation when the priest takes those of us to serve Mass above and beyond our school areas. We go into the cloister with the cloister nunnery, only me and the priest. So when he's starting his oratory, we have to respond in kind and to pronounce it more accurately. I think in part or in whole, my whole exposure to the Roman Catholic upbringing is rich, is colorful. I was baptized by the Matteo Ricci's mission in Macau by Father Minelli, and 30 years later, I met up the co-priest who baptized me, Father Luis Ruiz from Spain. I left from Spain to Cuba, from Cuba to Macau, and then from Macau. In the last 15 years of his life, I shared much of his mission and his work. There was, before the economic opening of China, Father Luis Ruiz had opened up more than 15 leprosarium for lepers in southern part of China with great discretion. There's no comment about the linkage of the Roman Catholics. He built leprosarium from the province immediately from Macau, which is Guangdong, and then we have Guangxi meaning the west of Guangdong, and then in Sichuan and Guizhou also. That will be a story for another time. But the rich, cultural rich passages in my life with the Roman Catholics, the Latin, and then coming back again to the Greek sounds. Of course, nobody talk in Greek, but we all have sung. All the high mass and the Gregorian chant is omnipresent. Okay, in any given Sunday, you think about Easter, you think about the Christmas, but any given Sunday, we learn to sing and speak the pronunciation in Greek. And here I want to do a couple sounds, voice that you can grasp, and then the rest can grasp. Okay. To jump a little bit forward, I taught English for 2 or 3 years before I moved from Brazil to US as a teenager, as a freshman studying here in Wisconsin. And often the kids from my age are very shy to using a foreign language. Well, I started teaching them using American basic folk songs from the songs like the Red River Valley, or the Michael wrote the boat, and when you give them the lyrics and sing along, some of them play guitar with me, and they play guitar, I use the harmonica. Here's a tune. I'm not sure this will come out. Well, this is one of the American Red River Valley. I learned it when I was in Macau as a kid, and then Susanna, Oh Susanna, and all the other, even Dixie. I think those tunes and sounds, now thinking back, is tracking from the early movies like Gone with the Wind. I think Dixie was sung and all that. However, when we were doing, I make a few other sounds of the Gregorian sounds, very frequently responding to the Mass in Latin sung in Gregorian chant, and Dominus vobiscum et cum spiritu tuo, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Pater omnipotente, Fator ceia terre, visi spirium Dominum, visi spiri Dominum. In the beginning of the story, I am now singing in the Gregorian chant in the hymn. This can make me stop and go and turn from English to Portuguese to Chinese to Cantonese. If I want to say this in Shanghai or in Spanish, me puedo confesar con todo esto, hablando en español, falando en portugués, and going back to singing English. And with this intonation going up and down, I can extend the vowel, make the stop, and let me think of the transition of the song and all the words. There was about 6, 7, 8 tunes that I carry on since I was age 8 until today. And also think about all the chants, all the song, almost on a daily basis, and the Mass is being done daily, and also the visit of the Eucharist. And so what I'm trying to say, in the carrying on the Gregorian tune, we can go back, I can tell you story in today's form, in any languages, and that is the richness of, I call it learning. That's part of my exposure with the Romance Latin language. And remember, this is all Latin words. It's A, E, I, O, U, Ba, Be, Bi, Po, Pu. My name is Paulo. In Italian, my name is Paolo, Paolo. In Spanish, my name is Pablo, and always that sound between the B and V, and extremely interesting. So what I'm trying to say here, that is, how did the Gregorian tone carry on for more than 2,400 years? If I starting the Christian era, 2024, in and around 2,000 years. And how come the Chinese sound and the instruments at the time of Confucius have not been carrying on? Even today, the old Chinese sounds, all guesswork. You can pick a bit from the Putonghua, the Mandarin. You can take a little piece from the Hakka, from the Cantonese. And I have the luck to expose to my mother tongue from the other side, just hearing the language from Guangxi or her Mandarin at her time spoken with a local accent. If you look back to all the old features, every Chinese leader, Greek leaders, they all speaking with their own native tongue attached. Deng Xiaoping speak with a heavy Sichuan accent, and Mao Zedong speaking with his Hunan accent, and Chiang Kai-shek, all the other leaders. But what I hope by presenting this Latin or Latino Grego, the Gregorian sound, will allow some of the Chinese folks to rethink and retrack where is one of the oldest sound, where one of the oldest music, and the Chinese instruments. You talk about multiculturalism. We have taken so much from the Western region of those go outside the Great Wall and then become Chinese. We play the instruments wu. The means two. Wu is a two strings, but the string instead they call it wu, means that Hu Ren, people outside of our Han Chinese arena. So this little segment, I just hope will be able to provide some sort of leading role in track and trace our sound, which is difficult. But in this particular moment, by highlighting the Greco-Roman intonation and the sound system, which had lasted more than 2,000 years. I thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this part of the presentation, my habla, and I will look forward for your comment and critiques or suggestions. YouTube, or just go on my page in Facebook in the conscientization, or under the segment I call the I, the Monkey King, or I, Ma Lao in Cantonese, also means the Monkey King. I think these are the rich cultural area that we can share and we can speak and question. Okay, wishing you all a very good and happy Monday.